you doing, guys? BC90 here with the next video in my Poise Showcase series, and today marks a new chapter in this series as I'm going to start focusing solely on strength weapons, or weapons that benefit from strength scaling. So just like my old videos that focus on a completely new build in terms of attributes, I'll be splitting this video into two. So this first video here will go through the build breakdown and the setup of how to actually use this particular build with this weapon. And the second video will be a link to the PvP montage with this setup. So if you want to skip all of this and actually get straight down to the PvP, there will be a link below in the description once it's finished uploading that will direct you straight to that video. Otherwise, we'll go straight into the stats. So, as you can see there, I'm at soul level 125 and my vigor is sitting at 33. Now, a lot of you may think that 33 isn't enough, but to be completely honest with you, after playtesting a lot with this particular setup, 33 is enough for you to survive any combo, or most combos in the game, while still having a little bit of HP left. And on top of that, because we're HP regenning quite significantly, in my opinion, during the match, you can allow yourself to get back a bit of HP in order to go in for the last trade and come out on top. Not only that, but the particular combos that can actually kill us outright, or almost kill us outright, like the Onikiri Ubidachi, or the Freed's Weapon Art, or the the Gotthard Spin Attack, or whatever, we can actually hyper armor through those weapon arts, guys. So utilizing the Poise breakpoints and an Ultra Greatsword, or a Great Axe, or a Great Hammer, if you time your attacks in active frames, which I've practiced a lot, you can actually fly squat a Onikiri and Ubidachi weapon art out of the air, which means that you won't stagger, in that animation. Instead, you'll be able to attack through it, and you won't receive the full combo. You'll either receive much less damage, or you'll interrupt the attack completely, depending on how you time it. Same thing goes for the Freed's Great Scythe weapon art. If you time your attack correctly, you can interrupt it, and the full combo will not hit you, and you'll be able to attack your opponent in turn without staggering, and also with the Gotthard Twin Swords Spin Attack. Now, I haven't tested this with all weapon arts, and I'm pretty sure with heavier weapons this won't work, but you can pretty much survive almost every combo in the game, and even more so when you learn how to time your attacks in active frames. So 33 is enough, in my opinion. Now, attunement's at 10, which is the base level for the Knight class. Endurance is at 30, so now my builds start getting an even stronger focus on stamina management. So with this particular weapon, you only get 3 swings out of it before you go into negative stamina, which means you're not looking to go for more than 2 hit combos and having the stamina to roll away, which is fine because this thing can kill your opponent in 2 to 3 hits. I've killed guys in 2 hits, and I've also killed guys in 3 hits, and really, when you go for that first consecutive hyper armor trade, you're going to get 2 guaranteed hits pretty much from this weapon. So that's almost 2/3 of your opponent's life bar gone, at least. Now with Great Hammers, you still get 4 swings at 30 endurance. So, you're still getting your 4 swings before going into negative stamina with a Great Hammer, which is good. So having 30 is probably optimal here. I probably wouldn't go any less than 30 endurance. Now, Vitality, as I've mentioned before, is our most important stat, and it's at 54 here. Namely, so we can, wear heavier armor to optimize or stack our base poise in order to reach those breakpoints, and also to equip heavy weapons without fat rolling. And the reason mine is at 54 is because I didn't want to have to actually, I wanted to wield the FUGS Ultra Greatsword here while still being able to wield, to wear heavy armor without fat rolling. As you can see, I'm not fat rolling. I'm under 70% equipment load, and I can wield this weapon successfully while also optimizing for base poise using almost full havels. So 54 vitality is optimal for me here, and you'll see in my later videos how much I can actually fit in to the build in terms of weapon versatility when I go to great clubs and other great hammers, or dual wielding setups, etc. Especially with great axes, since they're so heavy. Dual wielding setups with great axes while also wearing heavy armor, like almost full havels, is possible without fat rolling. So 54 vitality here is optimal for me. Now strength is at 50. So I couldn't go higher than 50, to be honest, guys, because the spread of stats, you know, it didn't let me allocate more points to strength. But 50 is awesome, in my opinion. For example, with the Fume Ultra Greatsword, which scales, you know, S in strength and E in dexterity when it's fully upgraded at +5, two-handed it hits for 604 AR. Now that doesn't sound like much by other Ultra Greatsword standards, but when you actually buff it here with Human Pine Resin, that goes up to 699 AR. And this is significant because this weapon, it has extreme range for Ultra Greatswords, and it has a shitload of hyper armor. So you'll be able to squat people from, you know, a far greater distance than other Ultra Greatswords in its class, especially with, if I just show you here now, especially with this R2 poke, it does have extreme range, and even the rolling poke, which was not that attack, but even the rolling poke, which I'll show here, has a lot of range, a lot more range than a lot of people expect, and you're going to be hitting them pretty hard. So like I said, 2 to 3 hits with this beast, and it's game over for your opponent. So the rest of the stats there are at their base for the Knight class, so Dexterity is at base, Intelligence, Faith, and Luck at base. So really we've only leveled up, Vigor, Endurance, Vitality, and Strength. 4 stats here in order to get a Strength, Vitality, Poise monster. Now, going back over to my equipment page, this is how my setup looks like. I've got the Fume Ultra Greatsword +5 as my main weapon, and as you'll notice here, I've got 2 Blessed Cestus. Okay, so I've got one in my offhand to stack with my Sun Princess ring, so we're looking at about 5 HP regen per tick, but I also have another one. Reason being is because, you know, with these weapons, or heavy weapons in general, they are quite slow. So in a setup such as this, where, you know, your main weapon is so heavy that you're not really going to have the room to have a sidearm or a crossbow or something like that. Instead, I want to have more HP regen. So in a situation where my opponent has the upper hand at the start of a match, I'll just switch over to the other Blessed Cestus here and play the neutral game for 10 to 20 seconds. You'll see a significant rise in your HP due to the stacked HP regen, which is about 8 HP per tick, which I also highlighted briefly in my previous video with the Black Knight Greatsword. And on top of that, obviously, you know, if you two-hand one of those Cestus, the other one sort of becomes your offhand Cestus, and you still get that HP regen with the benefit of the you know, the Perseverance weapon art and the, you know, Cestus combo, if that's what you want to do. But mainly I have it there for extra HP regen when using a really big heavy weapon like this. Now going back over here, I've also got a Pyromancy Flame +9. Why do I have that? You may have noticed I've also got Iron Flesh there at the ready. Reason being is, if you go back to my equipment page, if you've watched my earlier videos where I talked about breakpoints with Ultra Greatswords, if you optimize for a base poise above 45.81, you can comfortably consecutively hyper armor trade with every two-handed R1 in the game, except for Great Hammers, obviously timing in active frames. Now in this situation with Great Hammers, we're not going to be able to tank through them, because obviously they have you know, more hyper armor and less of a breakpoint to achieve as well. So you know you can either sort of outspace them in terms of range and poke them in their wind up, or you know, if you're actually fighting a less experienced player, I probably wouldn't try this all the time. It just depends on you know, the opponent that you're fighting. You can use Iron Flesh. Now using Iron Flesh will actually let you tank those Great Hammer hits while being able to swing back. Similar to having a poise, a base poise optimization of 52, which I also discussed in my previous videos, which is the maximum base poise you need with an Ultra to comfortably trade with every single two-handed R1 in the game, including Great Hammers. Because we're not doing that here, because we don't have room for a Wolf's Ring, in my opinion, or a heavier helm for that extra poise, I think Iron Flesh is a good substitute. Like I said, it's not going to work on more experienced players, but you know, occasionally I have been fighting guys where I haven't been the best at timing my attacks with those Great Hammers, and instead I'll chuck on Iron Flesh and start swinging away. They've still come at me, you know, and I've been able to stagger them instead and hit them, you know, 2 to 3 times for the win. Because you're still going to kill them in 2 to 3 hits with this weapon. It's just that good. Now back here to my equipment page, as usual, almost full Havels here with the Alva Helm. and as you can see, my base poise is 46.54. So we're above the 45.81 breakpoint, and this means if I time my attacks in active frames, like I always say in all my videos, we're going to be able to comfortably hyper armor trade against almost every two-handed R1 in the game. And to be honest guys, I haven't seen much great hammers lately, and you know, once you get used to their fighting style, you still can come out on top when using an ultra, if you're not going in for those trades. But with everyone else, you have the Poise breakpoint system behind you to be able to trade as needed, depending on your opponent's playstyle, which is something else I've talked extensively about in my previous videos. As for my ring selection, it's pretty much the same as always. Chloranthy ring +2, Ring of Favour +2, Havel's +2, and the Sun Princess ring. So it's my standard setup here, which I think is the optimal setup you need for almost all your Poise builds. And finally guys, I can say, you can have a strength and vitality Poise monster, and it is super viable in PvP. So that pretty much sums up this setup. From now on, in my next videos, I'll be focusing solely on weapons that benefit from strength. So I'm going to be looking more at other great hammers, you know, and generally all other weapons that have, you know, a high scaling in strength. Because at 50 strength, you're really going to see an AR advantage with those particular weapons. So that pretty much wraps up this video. Now once the second video loads up, just click the link below in the description and it'll show you, or it'll direct you straight into the PvP montage. Now one last thing I might mention guys, and this is something I mentioned in my previous videos as well, breakpoints increase and decrease depending on, you know, what attacks you use and what attacks your opponents use. And I have playtested this. If you're good enough to time an R2 charged poke to an opponent's two-handed R1 great hammer attack, you actually can poise through that. I've actually poised through that or tanked through that and not staggered, mainly because using that R2 attack with my ultra stacks also with my base poise optimization, and because it's a charged R2, it gets more hyper armor than your normal R1 attack, and you're actually able to comfortably get that hit in, take a normal two-handed R1 hit from your opponent using a great hammer, and still be able to get your damage out without staggering. So there's always that. Like I said, I do encourage you guys to watch that Big Hat Logan video, and also to download the Refined Poise calculator on Reddit. I've said this many times, so you can start sort of experimenting with this system at home. Anyways guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you're enjoying my content, please subscribe. Otherwise, as always, thank you for watching.